Previously on Neuron S. And now, the dramatic conclusion.
Motor disabled.
Okay, so making one of these do-it-yourself thrust stands isn't too hard. The first thing that you need is a gram scale, like what you got here. And of course you'll need to size your scale depending on what kind of thrust you're looking at measuring. Sitting on top of that scale, there's just got a common ordinary shelf bracket that you might get from the Home Depot or your local hardware store. And that's bolted to a piece of 1/4-inch ply. And the motor, of course, is bolted to the top of that, and that piece pivots like you saw in the video. Here on the back side, we see we've got the 1/4-inch plywood that has been, or has had some 1/4 scale SIG hinges glued to it, and that provides the pivot points. Traveling up the 1/4-inch plywood, we see the Neuron. And up here I put in a terminal block so that I didn't have to keep soldering bullets to every motor that I would like to try with this thing. And those are just the 2 bolts that hold the motor on. All pretty simple. Moving back down, I've just got a baseboard made out of 3/4-inch oak, just something I had kicking around my garage. This is what I clamp to the tabletop so it doesn't go flying away on me when I'm testing stuff. So the only thing that's even somewhat critical with this is to remember to get the distance between the hinge and the motor axle the same as the distance from the hinge to the point of contact on the scale. And that's really it. Once you've got that, you'll get a reasonably accurate measurement. Let's take a look at how I programmed the over-amp lockout for the thrust stand. First, we need to head into the model setup, and we're going to long press to go backwards. And here we are at logical switches. I'm going to scroll down to number 2, and we get that little press there. First I used the statement A is greater than X. A being the first variable is the ESC amperage. So this right here is reading the telemetry, the amperage telemetry coming from the ESC. Second variable is X, and this is where you actually set the amount of, the maximum amperage that you want to allow the system to use. If it exceeds this, it automatically shuts down the motor. We're going to return out of that, go down to logical switch 3, and this is called a sticky. So once this is activated, this statement becomes true, the sticky kicks in, also becomes true, and it stays locked, so that way it's not turning off, on, off, on, off, on. And as you can see here, it's triggered by logical switch 2, and when it's triggered, it switches SF into the down position. Now SF is the switch that I've set up as my throttle lockout switch. Okay, we're going to page over now to special functions, and down, let's see, SF2, this is just me setting up my throttle lockout switch, and this is a switch that I normally use to arm or disarm the motor. And these are, of course, the 2 tracks that tell me when the motor's on and when it's off.
Motor armed. Motor disabled.
And if we scroll down to SF5, we see that it's triggered by logical switch 3. And what it does is the same thing SF2 does, and it overrides channel 1 and it sends it into -100. And that essentially is just holding the throttle all the way at 0. Okay, let's go back to the logical switch page, and we're going to scroll down to logical switch 2 and scroll over to our max amp cutoff setting, and I'm going to bring that down below 20 amps, because I know the motor that I have on the thrust stand will use more than that. So that should do it right there, and we'll back out. And let's give it a spin. Okay, the battery's all plugged in and we're ready for our lockout test. Here we go.
Motor armed.
Okay, so we locked it out at 18.37 and it stopped at 18.87. Not too bad at all. And as you can see here, throttle has been totally disengaged. It won't re-engage again.
Motor disabled. Motor armed.
Until you reset it.
Motor disabled.
And there it is.